All right, hi guys. My name is Jared Bruning. I'm with the Daily Bell Ringer, and actually, I'm sitting outside right now because it's a nice day, and of course, uh, we're still my district, like many other districts, is currently doing social distancing, and so we're you know not in session today. I do have some other things I've been working on for my district, but I thought here this afternoon, I got a few minutes here, I'd jump online here because the other night I tried to do one of these live streams, and for some reason that connection just wouldn't work. And so I figured by sitting on my back porch here, I'm actually sitting a little bit closer to my router, and so hopefully I get a little bit better signal here. Online at this time. So anyway, just double checking to make sure I'm online here. So again, if I get anybody in here, that's great. If not, I'll probably just post this anyway with you know what with what I share here today. But what I wanted to talk about is, I've done a couple of these, as far as like, where do we go from here? I'm trying to adjust my hat there. Where do we go from here with online learning, especially with history? So many times it seems like history gets pushed to the back burner and we're kind of the forgotten one. It's always like math and ELA go before us, and we're always the one that's kind of forgotten in the background. But I want to talk about, what do we do as history teachers to maintain an online presence and do things online, especially here in this environment where now we're basically, a lot of us are going to distance learning and everything. So I guess what I wanted to show you here, I'm going to switch to my full screen here in a moment. What I wanted to show you is how I run or ran my classroom. I'm actually currently an instructional coach, but I did teach American history like for the past, well, 10 years before this. I was teaching American history, but my class, the way I had it set up, even though we were in the classroom, it could have very easily been shifted over to be an online class because I did so many things online. And so, I'm not saying that the way that I do it is the way that you have to do it. I'm just showing you kind of an example of how I had things set up. And you've probably seen other teachers who, probably have better setups than what I had going on here. But I just kind of wanted to show you how I had things set up and how that could easily transfer to doing an online class. So let me switch screens here and hopefully my connection stays on. Okay, so there you can see my screen, and there, of course, you can see Facebook. But what I wanted to show you here, let me see if I still got the tab here. Okay, here was my website for my class. This was where everything revolved around this website, and I could easily communicate with students. Students knew where to go to find things, and this website just made everything so much easier. All right, now there's so many different ways you can create a website now. Of course, so many of us work in, with Google tools or with Google, everything. And this site is built using Weebly. All right. And the reason I use Weebly, and I'll put a link down below after I get all done with this in the description to go to Weebly. Weebly gives you a lot more design options. I guess I'm one of those people, I spend a lot of time kind of looking at the design and how things look. I mean, I'm not always the best, but I just want, I like the way that Weebly allows you some different ways to design things. So I used Weebly. All right. And so here within Weebly, of course, you can see on my main page, I have all of these different places that students could go to find information about the class at the top. Of course, you scroll down. I did have my Twitter linked on here, but I have, my class syllabus and everything on there. And then links down here to all the different places, especially, Google Classroom. There's a link for them to go right to there. There's Skyward, which, of course, was our, online grading system. And then over here, of course, going to Edpuzzle. I use that quite a bit. But I guess I'll go through and kind of show you what these different tabs, the way I kind of had things organized. Every day when students came to my classroom, they knew they needed to go to this website. And as soon as they got to this website, they would first go to the daily agenda and the bell ringers. And so when they would go to the daily agendas and bell ringers, and this is actually kind of where I got the idea to start doing like daily bell ringers and start making these little videos. If you scroll down, you can see here's my entire agenda throughout the entire year. And so each week, what I would do is I would create a new, let me go to maybe like right in here where we were doing maybe the Civil War, which would have been right at the very end of the year. What I would do is, of course, they could click on, the daily agenda, and it would open up a Google slide presentation. All right, so here you can see, we'd be doing maybe on Monday, watching a little bit of a video, then doing a little bit of notes in class, and moving through that. And of course, every single day of the week they would have a different one. Now, if you notice in the corner here, I've got a picture of Abraham Lincoln at the Lincoln Douglas debates, and the reason I put in these, and if you go to some of my other agendas here, if you go back a few weeks, you'll notice, I'll have a different picture in the corner. Here was kind of the method to the way I did this. At the beginning of every 2 weeks, I would hand out a sheet to the students and say, like here you can see, Lewis and Clark is the one up for this week. But every 2 weeks, I would hand out a new sheet to the students, and on that sheet would be this little logo. All right, like for the 2 weeks, they would be doing their bell ringers. They would write their answers on the sheet that had Lewis and Clark on it. Okay, then they would know. Okay, when they would come into class and they'd pull out their worksheet, they would look up and they'd be like, oh, I've got the right one because there's the Lewis and Clark, there's the Lewis and Clark on my sheet, or I would print this out on the sheet for them to use for that week. And what I mean by doing the bell ringers is if you come back here to this page, right underneath it, here's the bell ringers for that week. And so they'd click on that, and here again, they would see the logo for whatever that 2 week period was. And here would be their questions that they would go and answer. So they'd click on, like, for this 2 week period, it was Andrew Jackson. So they would click on the link here, go to the link. Oh, that was a goofy bell ringer that I did there. But they would click on these links and do the different bell ringers based on, the information that they read about. All right, so here was, the four questions for them to answer, and so they'd write down their answers on that bell ringer sheet. And I guess the reason I'm showing you this is because I think, if you had your class already set up like this, students would already know, even if you went to because heaven forbid, I hope we never go to this type of situation again where we're having to do so much distance learning. But they could go there and they would know that everything they needed was there. So I could just set up on this website instead of just posting everything constantly to Google Classroom or posting to a bunch of different places. I would just simply, keep updating my daily bell ringer and keep on updating my daily agenda. And so that way, every day they knew where to go and find what information they needed. And of course, if they go to the daily agenda, they could see, hey, there's where, I have an assignment over on Google Classroom that I need to look at or whatever. So I felt like, if I was still in the classroom when this happened, I would be pretty well set because students would already have that system down. Some other things I included, of course, on my website. You go to a notes page, and actually I linked this to a Google site because it was much easier to transplant or basically link all of the Google slides into these sites. But if you look here, of course, they could click on the different things that we covered. There's, U.S. Constitution, or, if we come here to the Civil War, let's go to the Civil War one here. And of course, then they could come down and look and see, hey, here's all of the stuff that we covered. And they could go through and, see all the things that we talked about in the class. So again, it made it very seamless. And, this way I could have all of this information there as we were going through. And if we had to go to distance learning, they could easily go and find this stuff. So again, I had notes there. The other thing that I would do on my website as well, that I've kind of encountered a lot of teachers struggling with, especially now, is getting students into Google Classrooms or getting them into the different things we use. Because think about it, we've got Kahoots, we've got Quizlets, we've got Edpuzzles, we've got, we have all of these different great tools that are out there, but it seems like every single one of them, the students have to have a different code for it. Well, I got kind of sick of, like, every time I would have a new student join my class, I would have to spend like 20 minutes just basically sitting down with that student. Here's the code for this one. Here's the code for this one. Here's the code for this one. So instead, what I decided to do was I just put all my codes, and you can see I cleared them off here because I don't want everybody in there right now. But you can see, like, here's all my Google Classrooms for all my different class periods. I would put the code down here underneath. Now, every now and then I would have some, former student or whatever that would jump in there and get into one of my Google Classrooms, but it wasn't that big of a deal. I'd just boot them out once they got in there. But I would put all my codes online for the different tools that I wanted them to use, and I would just have it here on this website, so that way when a new student joined my class, I would just point them to the website and say, here you go, look at the codes there and get signed up for whatever we were doing. I also had this tab. Originally, I just had this as videos, but as the year went on, I would change it over to new to class because again, I would have new students coming in. And so what I had here was I created several little introductions. So new to class, kind of telling them what they basically need to know for that day. Then I kind of had a video that I would show at the beginning of the year, introducing what the class was all about. I did a walkthrough of the entire website, and then I kind of had a funny video here that was kind of classroom rules and expectations that I would have them watch. All right, and so that's would be kind of my rundown of what they needed to do if they were new to class. I would say, hey, go look at these videos. They're going to give you instruction on what you need to do to get ready for this class or to do in this class. Then from there, I would go to, of course, I had, my about page and everything, kind of giving them background and everything on me. But my thing that I would always hide here on my about page that, a few students figured it out that it was here, but not too many of them figured it out. If I was ever absent or knew I was going to be absent for a day from school, I would always make a little thing. I called it the virtual substitute, which was a little video, which was like the first 5 minutes of class. And then I would post it on YouTube as an unlisted link, and I would link it here on my website. So that way, when the substitute teacher came in, I would give them the link to the website and say, go to the About page, scroll to the bottom, play this video at the first 5 minutes. This was this was revolutionary for my classes. And I had so many substitute teachers that would come to me afterwards and say, that was the best thing I've ever had in a class, because I would virtually insert myself into the class, and the students felt like I was actually there. Not that I was like a great disciplinarian or anything like that, but the students, instead of just thinking, hey, it's a free for all day because Mr. Bruning's not here today, I would actually kind of be there in a sense because I would be there virtually. And the nice thing was too, I mean, how many times have you been gone from class for a day and you come back and one of the students say to you, oh, well, the sub never told us that. The sub never told us to do that. Well, guess what? You've got the video now, and you can say, no, I told you in the video this is what you were supposed to be doing. So you knew exactly. So too, it made you basically guaranteed you were going to get the exact instruction that you wanted. And actually, what I would do with this, you can see I've got a little timer here on the board. I would actually run through the whole bell ringer with them. I would give them 5 minutes to read through and answer questions on the bell ringer, and then I would kind of talk about it a little bit with my introductory video. Then too, a lot of times when I would have a substitute teacher, we'd have some sort of video clip that I wanted them to take a look at. Here's one from Fredericksburg from last year when I was gone for a day, and so that too would be where I would kind of insert things and would make it very, very simple for the substitute. They didn't have to search around looking for a lot of things. It was all in this one spot. So I'd always hide that kind of at the bottom of my about page on my website. Then I had a bunch of other things here. These are just different class projects, how-to videos. I even had my agenda from the year before, and I actually kind of hid this here on this drop down menu, because that way what I did was I just copied this page and put it in here into my website, and that way if I was ever wondering, like, okay, what did I do last year with this? What was my plans for this topic last year? I would just go back and look at my agenda from the year before and kind of see where I was at. Now, of course, every year I always tried to insert new things, but it was nice to be able to have that record very easily to go back to and click to, okay, I know it's the middle of November. What was I doing middle of November last year? Where was I at? And so I could kind of pace myself along with where I was at before just from using that. So again, I would highly suggest, maybe next, I mean, at this point, it kind of looks like it's going to be next year. Let me switch screens here so I'm back up in front, and maybe, I don't know if I'm going to have anybody that jumps into this chat or not here. But it might be a good idea next year if, like I said, at this point, it's not looking that good that we're going to be coming back. I mean, I'm hoping that we get back into the classroom again, but right now it just doesn't look that great. And hopefully everybody's staying safe and healthy through all this. But um, if you're coming in next year, I would highly, 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 highly suggest creating a website for your class. It's just, I realize, a lot of people have Google Classroom and are using Google Classroom. I use Google Classroom. I mean, it's the easiest way to distribute materials and everything to students. But with a website, you can, very easily, design the information to be the way that you want it. Because in Google Classroom, I mean, Google is awesome. I mean, there's no, I mean, I'm a Google certified trainer, so I mean, I love Google. I think Google's the greatest, and they've done some amazing, innovative things with education that is really, really cool. But I feel like a website you can do so much more. And again, Google Sites um, is, an easy way you can make your own website, and there's so many design options with that as well. But I always feel like, I originally started using Weebly years ago, and I guess I'm just kind of, that was what I originally started with, so that's what I want to stick with. Um, so if you can create a website, do it. Because again, in this situation that we're in right now, if I wish so badly I could have, convinced some other teachers to create websites, because now they would have been ahead of the game, and they would have, I don't think been as stressed as they are right now trying to get caught up and get everything shifted to being online. And the other nice thing too about having that website there was that, if a student was absent, and again, not that this happened very often, but I would have students that if they were absent, they could always access the website, see exactly what we were doing the day that they were gone, and then be able to get caught up or be able to keep up with what they're doing. Actually, one really cool thing I remember a few years ago that I did with having the stuff online was, of course, I taught eighth grade American history was, what I taught. And our big thing, of course, eighth grade is cover the U.S. Constitution. And so part of my U.S. Constitution was we would create a mock Congress, or a congressional simulation. I would break the students into committees, and within the committees, they would have to look at bills and discuss them and find the pros and cons, and then they would have to send a few of them out of committee to be voted on in the House and in the Senate. And the cool thing was that I remember a couple of years ago, I had a student that she knew she was going to be gone, and she was so into this project that she was like, how can I still vote on these bills? Because I've spent, the past week going looking at this, studying and researching these bills in my committee. I want to be able to vote on them when it comes to a vote. And actually, I think she was gone for like a whole week or something. Now, I know this isn't, official to the way it would be done in Congress, but I told her, you can vote remotely. And so we actually set it up through the website that she was able to access a Google form. And when a vote would come up, I would have that form, that Google form would automatically send her an alert and say, hey, this bill is up for vote, you need to vote on that bill. And then she was able, it was funny because I remember wherever she was on her trip, she actually like skipped out on that part of their vacation so she could be in the hotel room for the hour that we were in class, so that she knew that she could vote on the bills and everything. So she was like there in real time with us voting. Of course, now I wish I would have, had like a Google Hangout or something. I would have had her in that and had her virtually discussing things with us. So anyway, that was kind of what I wanted to talk about here was, using online tools in a history class, and, basically using um, a website to run your class. I think it's a great way to organize things, and a great way just to, I'm not the most organized person, especially with papers and everything, and basically that website kept me organized, that I had to keep things up to date on that website. And that's the other thing, is you kind of have to force yourself to make sure you're constantly updating the website, because I don't know how many times I've seen teachers' websites that, they're like, oh yeah, I've got a website, and then you go in and look, and it's like, 2014 was the last time it was updated. So you need to make sure that you're updating your website. And the way that I kept updating the website was every Monday, of course, I would be updating that daily agenda. I would, and actually daily I was updating it, because I would make a new daily agenda slide presentation for that first page, and then just keep on adding to it and adding to it and adding to it. So I guess I was kind of hoping I might have a few folks jump in here. I know this was a very impromptu live stream here today, but hopefully you guys are using some of those daily bell ringers. Of course, I'm trying to trying to get through to the Civil War. I know I'm slowly moving, but today I kind of got more into more of the sectionalism stuff. Of course, we just talked about Manifest Destiny on Friday. Today was Nullification Crisis. Wednesday is going to be Nat Turner Rebellion. I just recorded that one and got that one all finished up. And then Friday is going to be Trail of Tears. All right. So we're getting closer. It's going to get there, and I'm going to keep on adding stuff. So if you're using them, I'm so excited if you're using them. But hopefully there's something that you are enjoying having in your class and can be a tool that can make things easier for you, especially right now. I mean, I think right now is a great time to be using these. Using some of these online tools that are already here. And I know there's so much great content that's on YouTube. It's just tough trying to find it sometimes, trying to find the good stuff that's on there. And so by no means, I know my stuff isn't necessarily the best stuff that's out there. There's some amazing things that are out there from guys like Crash Course and Mr. Beat and some of these other guys. But hopefully, some of my things you're finding useful. So anyway, with that, I'm gonna cut out here because I think my kids are probably getting restless back there because I'm, of course, not only trying to do some of my responsibilities at work, I'm also trying to watch kids right now of my own at home and make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Okay, so anyway, hopefully some of that stuff you found helpful. If you got any questions or anything like that, send me a message. I'll be happy to try to help you out if I can. Okay, so with that, I will sign off and thanks a lot.